If you ever hear your own voice calling you from the darkness, don't answer it. I'm about to tell you 3 stories. A park ranger who watched something climb up his tower. A truck driver chased by something running 70 miles per hour. And 4 friends who heard each other's voices coming from the woods. All of them learned the same thing. Once a skinwalker learns your name, it never stops looking for you. I heard the first scream at 1:17 a.m. It came from somewhere down in the canyon below my lookout tower, sharp enough to cut straight through the low hum of the radio and the hiss of the wind. It wasn't the scream itself that made my blood run cold. It was the way it changed halfway through. Started human. Didn't stay that way. Probably a cougar, I told myself, fingers tightening on the edge of the desk. Or a fox. They can sound like a woman screaming. But I've spent 6 years as a night ranger in Red Hollow National Park. I know what the animals sound like, and I know when something is pretending to be one. The radio on my desk crackled. "Tower 2, status check," came the overnight dispatcher's voice, lazy, bored. "We're getting some reports of distant screaming from a campsite on the South Loop. Anyone near there?" I looked at the map pinned to the wall. South Loop was mine. Of course it was. I picked up the radio with a hand that suddenly felt too small for my own fingers. "Tower 2, I heard it," I said. "Might be an animal?" Silence for a second. "Copy that," he said. "Just do a pass by the trailhead. Make sure nobody's wandering off drunk." I glanced at the digital clock again. 1:19 a.m. I really didn't want to leave the tower. But the job is simple. Hike, check, log. Every few hours, all night long. Anyone else would have killed for this job. Good pay, isolated duty, no tourists at night. No one to bother you but the wind and the dark. I used to love it too. Before last winter. Before I heard something down in those trees call my name in my own voice. I grabbed my flashlight and sidearm and stepped out into the night. The air was cold in that high desert way, dry and sharp, full of sagebrush and dust. The sky was clear, stars spilling across it from horizon to horizon. You'd think the sheer beauty of it would calm me down. You'd be wrong. Every shadow between the pines felt too heavy. Every shape at the edge of my vision looked like it might move if I stared too long. The trail down from the tower wound in a slow curve to the left, then cut through a cluster of junipers. That was where the tree line thickened. Once you passed the third switchback, the tower lights disappeared behind the ridge. I hated that part. As I descended, the scream echoed again. Closer this time. Human. Definitely human. "Help! Someone! Please!" My breath caught. That was a woman. No doubt. High, panicked, raw. "Hello?" I called, forcing my voice not to splinter. "Park ranger! Keep calling so I can find you." The reply came instantly. "Here. I'm here. Oh my God! Please! Help me!" It was closer than it should have been. Too close for how far away the sound had seemed just seconds ago. I swept my flashlight beam across the trees, heart pounding in my throat. Nothing, just trunks and scrub and darkness. "Keep talking!" I shouted. "Are you injured?" A pause. Then, yes. Same voice, same pitch. But the word came out wrong. The YY dragged too long. The maïs hissed in the back of the throat like the speaker wasn't used to having a tongue. I stopped walking. Every hair on my arms stood up at once. I knew this wasn't supposed to be happening. I knew because, when I first took this job, one of the older rangers, Mark, a Navajo guy who'd worked here since before I was born, pulled me aside. "Listen," he'd said, "there's things up here you leave alone. You hear voices where there shouldn't be voices. You don't answer. You see something that looks almost like a coyote, but not quite? You go the other way. You hear your own name out there? He'd looked at me with eyes that had seen way too much. You pretend you didn't. I'd laughed back then, thought it was just reservation lore, campfire story material. Then last winter, something outside my tower had called Evan in my voice so perfectly that I almost opened the door. Almost. Now that warning came roaring back into my mind. I swallowed hard. Where are you? I called anyway. Because if there was even a chance someone was hurt out here, the job said I couldn't just walk away. The answer came from behind me. Right. Here. I spun around so fast, I nearly slipped on loose gravel, flashlight beam jerking wildly. Nobody. Empty trail. Empty trees. Empty dark. But the voice had been close. Right over my shoulder. And it hadn't echoed. My heart slammed so hard I had to press a hand against my chest. "Dispatch, this is Tower 2, I said, lifting the radio with shaky fingers. "I'm on the South Trail. I'm hearing—" "I'm not sure. Possible distressed visitor, but something's off. Can you confirm any missing campers?" Static hissed back at me. Then the dispatcher's voice. "Negative, Tower 2. All groups accounted for. You sure it's not a cougar?" Before I could answer, something to my left laughed. It was my laugh. Perfect. The same, right down to the little breath at the end. I froze. All the air left my lungs. The laugh came again, this time a little more distorted, like someone trying on a sound for size and not quite getting it right. "He's scared," my own voice said softly. From the dark cluster of trees off the trail. "He's so scared." My mind flashed white. I didn't answer, didn't move, didn't breathe. Something stepped between the trees, just beyond the edge of my light. Tall, too tall, long-limbed, too long, wrapped in animal hide and shadows, wrong-shaped, wrong-jointed, wearing something like a deer skull that had been stretched, twisted, reshaped into a mockery of a face. And underneath that mask, behind the empty eyes, I felt it looking at me, not like prey, like a toy. The radio slipped in my grip. "Tower 2? You still there?" Dispatch crackled. The figure's head jerked to the side at the sound. The deer skull shape twitched, as if sniffing. Then my own voice came out of it. "Yeah," it said into the dark. "I'm here." My hand clenched around the radio so tight my knuckles ached. I didn't say that. I didn't move my mouth. But my voice spoke again from the thing standing 10 yards away. "I found her. She's hurt. I'm going to need help getting her back up the ridge." The dispatcher didn't hesitate. "Copy that. Tower 2. You want backup?" The thing tilted its head. Then it smiled. It didn't have lips, just a stretch of shadow and bone where a mouth should be. But somehow, it smiled. "Nah," it said, my voice light, casual, a perfect imitation of the way I sounded on slow nights. I got it. My finger slammed down on the transmit button before I could think. "Dispatch, that's not me." My words came out in a hoarse rush. "Do not send anyone down here. That is not me." Silence. For one horrible second, I thought the radio had died. Then, "Tower 2, repeat, you're coming in doubled." Of course it would. We were both transmitting. The thing shifted, turning that too long, too narrow skull toward me slowly. The antler-like edges caught the moonlight. Then it dropped my voice. What came out next was worse. A sound like dry leaves scraping against each other, like an old throat trying to remember how to make human words. "Stop!" it rasped, but it wasn't talking to dispatch. It was talking to me. I let go of the transmit button like it burned. For a moment, nothing moved. Not the wind, not the trees, not the stars overhead. Then the thing took one step closer. The deer hide hanging from its shoulders dragged over the dirt. Something clinked softly. Bones tied into its hair, maybe. Charms. Trophies. I didn't want to know. It was close enough now that my flashlight caught more detail than I ever wanted. The skin on its hands, if those were hands, was wrong. Stretched too tight over too many joints. Fingers too long, nails too thick. And it was wearing something. Not clothes, pieces. Scraps of park ranger uniform. My uniform. On its left wrist hung a familiar green patch, torn from a shirt like mine. From a distance, in the wrong light, someone might mistake it for an actual ranger. Someone might follow it if it waved and called for help. "Where is she?" it asked now, voice improving, words clearer, like it was learning with every attempt. I didn't answer. Couldn't. "You should have gone to her," it continued, tilting its head. "You heard her. You always hear them. You're supposed to help." My mouth went dry. There's no one out here," I managed. "No reports. No—" Wrong. That word rang in my skull like a hammer. Suddenly, I wasn't on the trail anymore. I was back in last winter's snowstorm. Whiteout blizzard. Visitor lost somewhere off the North Ridge. Radio going in and out. We'd searched for 6 hours and called it when the storm got too bad. Declared it unsafe. Promised to resume at first light. We found the body 2 days later. Frozen, half buried in a drift. Alone. "Where were you?" A voice that wasn't quite a voice whispered at the back of my mind. "I tried," I whispered, before I could stop myself. "We tried. It stepped closer. Only feet away now. "You left them," it said. "You left them in the dark. You left them in the cold. You always leave them." Tears stung my eyes. Hot, stupid, angry tears. "I don't leave anyone," I growled back. "I do my job." It leaned down until its empty eye sockets lined up with mine. "Do it now." The scream came again. Farther up the canyon to the east. A woman crying for help, voice cracking, echoed by the rocks. "Please, somebody help me. I'm hurt." Every instinct in me tore in 2 directions. The thing reached down. Its fingers brushed my shoulder. Ice. That was the only word for it. Not cold like weather. Cold like something hollow. Like winter hate. "You go," it said, softer now. "You run. You save her." "And you?" I whispered. Its skull-twisted face tilted. "I walk your route," it said simply. I saw it then. The shape of it in my tower, pacing slowly. The deer's skull peering out my windows, my radio in its hand, my voice in its throat, answering check-ins like nothing was wrong. Night after night after night. "You stay," I croaked. It almost looked amused. "You don't decide that," it said. Then it stepped back into the trees. Gone. Like it had never been there. The scream came again, high, broken, desperate. "Please! Somebody!" This time there was nothing warped about it. Someone was out there. Really out there. I ran. Branches whipped at my arms, rocks slid under my boots. I followed the sound around the bend, across the dry wash, up toward the old service road we'd closed 3 seasons ago. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. The voice grew louder, closer. "Help! Please!" I rounded a boulder and nearly crashed into her. Mid-20s, hair matted with dirt, jeans torn open at the knee, hands scraped raw. She looked like she'd been wandering for hours. She flinched at the beam of my flashlight. "Ranger," she gasped, relief breaking across her face so hard it almost looked painful. "Oh my God, I thought no one. I've been yelling for—" I heard you, I panted. You're okay. You're okay. Can you walk? She nodded, shaking. As I led her back toward the tower, she kept looking over her shoulder at the trees. Something was out there, she whispered. I kept hearing, I don't know, voices, like someone calling my name in different ways, like it was trying them on. My stomach dropped. What's your name? I asked. Lily, she said. I didn't tell her that something had been trying my name on for almost a year now. Didn't tell her it had just struck a deal with me without my consent. We reached the tower just as first light started to gray the sky. I radioed the dispatcher, voice tight, told him I'd found a lost hiker, requested transport at the South Service lot. Copy that, Tower 2, he replied. For a second, I thought you'd changed your mind about backup. I frowned. What do you mean? You called about 10 minutes ago, he said. Said you had eyes on her and we should get a team rolling. My scalp went numb. I didn't, I whispered. He chuckled. Well, whoever answered your radio sounded exactly like you. I glanced up at my tower window. For just a second, I saw a shape move there. Tall, wrong, antlered, watching. Then it melted back into the shadows. Lily shivered beside me. Can we go wait in the truck or something? She asked. I don't like looking at that tower. Yeah, I said hoarsely. Yeah, we can. I signed the logs that morning on autopilot. Patrol completed. Lost hiker recovered. Unremarkable night. But I added one more note in small handwriting at the bottom of the page. If you hear me on the radio and I sound off, check the tower before you trust the voice. Because I don't know what's walking my route some nights now. I just know the screams don't always stop when I go down the mountain. And something in the dark is very, very good at sounding like me. Story 2. Mile marker 43. I've been driving rigs for 17 years, coast to coast, night after night. In all that time, I've seen just about everything you can imagine on the road. Except this. Nothing prepared me for this. It happened 3 winters ago, somewhere along Highway 191 in Utah. An empty stretch of desert road that feels like you're driving across the surface of the moon. No houses, no gas stations, no lights except your own. Just blackness. I was hauling a refrigerated trailer full of produce from Reno to Colorado. The dispatcher begged someone to take the load. Roads were icy, temperatures dropping like crazy, and most drivers didn't want to go through reservation land that late at night. But I needed the miles. Divorce had drained my savings. Alimony was squeezing my throat like a hand. So I took it. Bad decision. Around 2:38 a.m., the temperature outside dropped to -21. That's when the weirdness started. My radio crackled, soft at first, then louder, like someone was whispering close to the mic. You left me. I grabbed the CB handset. Breaker, who's on channel 9? You're cutting in. No response. Just static. I shrugged it off until about 10 minutes later, when I saw a figure on the side of the road at mile marker 43. A woman, barefoot, standing in the snow. Her hair was dark and matted. Her clothes, if she was wearing any, were thin and torn. Her arms hung stiffly at her sides, fingers pointed straight down like she didn't know how to bend them. I slowed the truck. Nobody should be out here. As I rolled closer, her head turned toward me in one sharp, unnatural movement. Not like a person turning, like something snapped it into place. My stomach twisted. I leaned forward in my seat, squinting through the windshield. Then she raised her arm, slowly, like she was learning how, and pointed directly at me. My headlights slid over her face. and I slammed the gas pedal to the floor. Because the woman didn't have a face. Not really. Just a stretched, smooth surface where features should have been, like someone had taken a mask and pulled it too tight. The CB radio crackled again. "Stop!" My heart punched my ribs. I didn't answer. I just drove. After about a mile, I forced myself to breathe again. My hands were trembling on the wheel. I kept telling myself, fatigue, snow glare, imagination. Then the voice came again, clearer. "Why didn't you stop?" I nearly swerved. "Who is this?" I barked into the radio, trying to sound angry instead of terrified. A pause. Then, in my ex-wife's voice, "You always leave." My blood turned to ice. "Nope. No. No. No," I muttered, turning the CB off completely. "We are not doing this tonight." The desert stretched endlessly ahead, black and silent. But the feeling in my chest wouldn't go away. That feeling you get when something is following you. I checked my mirrors. Nothing. For a while. Then, a shadow appeared behind my trailer. A shape. Low to the ground. Running. I blinked hard, thinking it was just a smear on the glass. No. It was real. Something was sprinting behind my 18-wheeler at highway speed. And gaining. I pushed the engine harder, tires crunching over ice. The shape kept following. Its outline flickered in and out of the dark, almost human, but too long, too bent, too fast. My throat went dry. No. No way. Trucks don't get chased by people. That doesn't happen. But it was happening. At 63 mph, it was catching up. At 70 median P, still right there. My palms were so sweaty, I kept losing grip on the wheel. Then, it climbed. I heard it. Hands hitting the trailer walls. Thump, 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 clawing its way up the side. I floored the gas. The truck roared. The creature pulled itself up the left side of the trailer, body pressed to the metal, long limbs hooked into the grooves like it was made for climbing. Its head hung downward as it crawled, twisted, unnatural, wrong. And then it turned. Its face, or whatever it used as a face, rotated toward my cab. Smooth, blank, white, no eyes, no mouth, just watching me. My breath stuttered. "Jesus!" I swerved left. The creature slid but held on, fingers digging deep. The CB radio, turned off, suddenly crackled loudly, blasting through the speakers. "Don't leave me again!" My ex-wife's voice. That did it. I slammed the brakes hard and jerked the wheel. The trailer fish-tailed. The creature flew off, rolling across the asphalt like a shadow caught in headlights. I didn't stop. Didn't look. I sped away as fast as the rig could handle on ice. The voice screamed over the dead radio. High. Inhuman. Then, everything cut out. Silence. After 20 minutes, I pulled into a gas station, the first I'd seen in over 50 miles. The attendant, an older Navajo guy, stepped outside the door the moment I rolled in. He looked at my truck. Then he looked at me. Then he said quietly, "You passed mile 43, didn't you?" I nodded, shaking. He sighed. "Whatever called you from the road, don't answer it. And whatever chased you, don't talk about it out loud again." Then he pointed at the rig. "Don't drive until sunrise." I stayed parked at that gas station for 5 hours, sitting in the cab with every light on, engine off, waiting for the gray morning sky. Before I left, the old man handed me a small pouch filled with cedar and something that smelled like crushed sage. "Keep this in your cab," he said. "It won't stop them, but it confuses them long enough for you to get away." I didn't argue. Even now, years later, I don't take that highway at night. And every time I pass mile marker 43 in the daylight, there are footprints in the snow. Small ones, bare ones, walking parallel to the road, following it, following me. Story 3. The Thing That Learned Our Names. It started as a stupid idea. My friend group, Ben, Marcus, Tyler, and me, decided to spend a weekend camping near the edge of Navajo land. Not deep in the reservation, just near the border. A public area. Legal. Ben had a new camera. Marcus wanted night sky photos. Tyler brought beer because Tyler always brings beer. And me? I just needed a break from school. We set up camp around 4 p.m. River to our right, tree line to our left, and a massive open sky overhead. Beautiful spot. Peaceful. Perfect. Until the sun went down. At around 9:30 p.m., we were sitting near the fire when we heard it. Someone walking just beyond the tree line. Not heavy like an animal. Not snapping branches. Just soft footsteps, pacing slowly back and forth, circling. Marcus froze. "You guys hear that?" We all nodded. "Probably a deer," Ben said too quickly. "There's tons of them out here." The footsteps stopped. Then a voice said, "Ben?" All four of us snapped our heads toward the trees. The voice sounded exactly like me. Perfect match. But I hadn't spoken. Ben stared at me. Did you say my name?" "No," I whispered. The voice came again. "Ben, come here." This time, it sounded slightly wrong. My tone stretched too long, vowels pulled like someone mimicking the shape of my voice rather than speaking with it. Tyler stood up. "I don't like that." Nobody laughed. Nobody said it was a prank. Because every instinct in our bodies screamed, "Do not go near those trees." Ben whispered, "Hey, maybe it's someone messing with us? Another campsite?" We all knew there wasn't. We had the only fire for nearly half a mile. We'd checked maps. There were no trails there. No roads. The voice shifted. Now it sounded like Marcus. "Guys, I'm hurt." Marcus went pale. "That's not funny," he hissed. "Whoever you are, cut it out." Silence. Then, "Tyler." The voice was perfect. Exact. Down to the casual laziness Tyler always had when he talked. Tyler whispered, "What the hell?" Something moved between the branches. A shape. Tall. Not human-shaped, but trying to be. Ben grabbed the flashlight and pointed it toward the noise. "No!" Marcus grabbed his arm. "Don't shine it!" Too late. The beam hit the tree line, and something ducked backward, as if the light hurt it. Not like an animal hiding, more like something caught in the act of wearing a wrong-sized costume. Suddenly, the voice shouted, "Help!" But it sounded like all four of us at once. Every voice layered, every tone, every pitch, like it had recorded us and mixed us together. We backed away from the trees slowly, hands shaking. "Get in the tents," Ben whispered. "No," Tyler said firmly. "Car. Now." He was right. Tents weren't protection. We moved fast, fire crackling behind us. The moment we hit the clearing near the car, a single, horrible sound erupted from inside the woods. Something laughing, not human, not animal. A broken mixture of all our laughter stitched together. We piled into the SUV. Ben turned the key. The engine stalled. He tried again. And again. Come on," he muttered. Then the voice spoke right outside my window. "Open the door." I froze. The window was fogging, like something cold was breathing against the glass. Slowly, a shape leaned into view. Thin, long, wrong. Its joints bent in angles no human limbs could bend. Something like a face pressed to the window. Smooth white skin stretched too tight, with the faint impression of where eyes or a mouth should have been. Then it whispered, My own voice, perfectly. "Let me in!" I screamed. Ben slammed his hand on the dashboard. The engine roared to life. "Go!" Marcus shouted. Ben floored it. The car shot forward, wheels spinning on dirt. Something slammed against the back bumper with enough force to shake the whole vehicle. Tyler yelled, "Don't stop! Don't stop!" Ben didn't. We tore down the service road, branches whipping the sides of the SUV. Something ran behind us. Fast. Too fast. I heard it. Its limbs slapping the ground, its breath rasping like a drowning person, its voice shifting through all of ours. "Wait! Don't go! Come back! Help! Let me in!" Ben didn't slow down until we reached the highway. Only then did the sound stop. Only then did we feel safe enough to breathe. When we got home, we made a rule. We never camp there again. We never talk about it in public. And we never answer our names at night if we hear them from outside. Ever. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, my phone buzzes, a voicemail. No number, just breathing. Then a voice. My voice. Broken and stretched. "Please, let me in." I delete them, but they always come back. It learned our names that night, and now it knows where we live. Last story. The thing that wears our faces. I was 12 years old the first time I heard the word Skinwalker. My cousin Ray and I were spending the summer at our uncle's place, a lonely little house sitting on the edge of a dry, empty stretch of desert. The nearest town was 30 minutes away, and at night the sky looked so huge it felt like it could swallow you. Uncle Joe was a quiet man. He'd grown up around the reservations and spent most of his life out there, working odd jobs and fixing whatever his neighbors broke. He let us stay because my mom said the city was messing with my head, and a summer in the desert would clear my mind. Yeah, about that. The first night, the house already felt wrong. The floors creaked even when nobody was walking. The old evaporative cooler in the window rattled like someone shaking a metal cage, and from the back porch, the land just ended. The sharp line of the yard dropped into a sea of dark brush, rocks, and scrub that went on forever. "Don't go out there after dark," Uncle Joe warned, his voice flat, like he was talking about a rule he'd said 100 times. "And if you hear someone calling your name, you don't answer. Got it?" Ray laughed. "What? You got coyotes that do impressions now?" Uncle Joe didn't smile. "They're not coyotes," he said quietly. "They're worse." That's when he told us about skinwalkers. Not in a storytelling voice, not like campfire fun. He said it like he was briefing us before a war. "Some things out here," he said, staring out the kitchen window. "They like to copy us, our voices, our steps, even our faces when it gets bad. They stay just close enough to watch, just far enough that you're not sure what you're looking at, but they're always there." I felt a chill slide down my spine. Ray rolled his eyes and elbowed me, whispering, "He's messing with us." Maybe he was. But later that night, when the house went quiet and the sky outside turned ink black, I lay awake listening for anything that sounded like a voice. Nothing. Just the dry whisper of wind against the walls. The days were boring, hot, and slow. The sun burned everything white. We weren't allowed to wander too far, so we killed time scrolling our phones, playing stupid games, and complaining about the Wi-Fi. On the third night, the first strange thing happened. Ray woke me up by shaking my shoulder. "Dude, listen," he whispered. My room was dark, except for the thin silver strip of moonlight leaking in through the blinds. The old clock in the hall ticked too loud. At first, I didn't hear anything else. Then it came. A soft, dragging sound across the back porch, like someone walking barefoot on old wood. Slide, step, slide, step. It stopped. Then, knuckles rapped lightly on the back door. 3 taps. Polite. Patient. My chest got tight. "That's just the wind," I muttered. But even I didn't believe it. Then we both heard a voice. "Joe," it called. "You awake?" My heart nearly stopped. It sounded like a man. But there was something off about the tone. Too flat. Like someone playing a recording through cheap speakers with the volume just a little too high. Ray looked at me with wide eyes. That sounds like—" "Uncle," I whispered. The voice called again, a little softer this time. "Joe, it's me. Open up." It had the shape of Uncle Joe's voice, the way you can tell who's speaking even through a wall. But the feel of it was wrong. It didn't rise or fall. It didn't sound tired or annoyed or anything. It sounded empty. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. Then Uncle Joe's bedroom door creaked open. His footsteps were heavy and slow in the hall, like he was already expecting this. He passed our room and went straight to the back of the house. I heard the chain lock slide, but not the deadbolt. He didn't open the door. "You're not welcome here," he said quietly. The voice outside answered immediately. "Come on, Joe," it said, still perfectly calm. "It's just me. You know me." I waited for Uncle Joe to shout or call the cops or do literally anything else. Instead, there was this heavy silence, thick like smoke. "Leave," he said finally, "before I make you." For the first time, the voice outside slipped. Just a little. It clicked on the wrong syllable. "Joo!" It stretched, too long, like someone holding a note. "You know me." The chain slid back into place. Uncle Joe walked away. Whatever was outside stayed a moment longer. We could hear the boards creaking as it shifted its weight. Then the night went still. My heartbeat didn't slow for a long time. The next morning, Ray and I pretended nothing happened. Uncle Joe didn't bring it up either. He cooked eggs and sat at the table with his coffee, staring at the newspaper like the universe didn't have an error in it. Finally, Ray snapped. "Who was that?" he demanded. "Last night, at the door." Uncle Joe didn't look up. "No one you want to meet." "Was it one of those Skinwalkers?" I asked, my voice quieter. He sighed. "There are rules out here," he said. "You don't look for them. You don't answer them. You don't invite them in. And you definitely don't talk about them too much. They like attention." He glanced at us then, and I saw it. Not fear, exactly, but exhaustion. Like he'd been running from the same thing his whole life. "Just listen to me," he said. "Stay inside at night. If you hear me calling you from outside, and you see me through the window, but I'm also in this house, you don't open the door. Got it?" Ray tried to laugh it off. "That's oddly specific, old man," he joked. But I noticed his hand was shaking as he lifted his glass of orange juice. After that, nights were worse. The thing outside didn't come every night. That almost made it creepier. It would skip a day, maybe 2, then show up again like a glitch repeating in a broken video. Sometimes it knocked and used Uncle Joe's voice. Sometimes it didn't bother with the knocking. We'd just hear the boards on the back porch creak, then a sound like claws sliding softly across wood. And once, late on the 8th night, it tried something new. This time, it called my name. "Eli," it said, perfectly clear through my closed window. "Come here, buddy. Look what I found." It sounded like my mom. My chest clenched so hard it hurt. For a second, just one tiny second, my brain wanted to believe it was her, somehow. But she was 3 states away. And even if she weren't, she would never call me in that weird, slow, flat voice. I pulled my blanket over my head like I was 5 years old again and stayed that way until the first weak gray light of dawn slid under the curtain. By breakfast, I decided I wasn't going to be scared anymore. I was stupid. Ray was the first one to suggest we prove it was all some kind of trick. "Could be some neighbor messing with your uncle," he said. "Does he even have neighbors? Maybe it's like a crazy local joke." "Joke?" I said. "You heard that thing. It's not funny." He shrugged, but I could tell he was just as shaken as I was. Fear does something weird to some people. It makes them want to poke it, test it. "Look," Ray said, lowering his voice. "We set up your phone. Record the back door overnight. If nothing shows up, we chill. If something does—" He didn't finish. I should have said no. Instead, that night, we stacked 2 old paint cans and a wobbly stool by the dirty back window and taped my phone to the glass, camera facing the porch. I set it to record, plugged it into the wall, and we pulled the blinds almost all the way down. "Just enough space so it sees outside," Ray said. "Just enough space so something can see in," I muttered. We went back to my room and sat in the dark, watching the red recording light on the screen glow faintly from down the hall. Midnight came and went. The house was too quiet. Even the wind had died. Sometime after 1, I must have dozed off. I woke up to the sound of scratching. Not at the door. At the window. Long, slow strokes across the glass. Shh, shh, shh. Ray's eyes were already open in the dark, reflecting the faint light from the hallway. "You hear that?" he breathed. We didn't move. We didn't dare move. The scratching stopped. Then a voice spoke, so close it sounded like it was inside the wall. "Boys," it said. This time, it wasn't trying to sound like anyone specific. The voice was wrong in every direction, too deep and too high at the same time, like 2 people talking over each other in perfect sync. "Boys," it repeated slowly. "You left your window open." We heard the blinds at the end of the hall rattle as something gently lifted them. And then I made the mistake. I turned my head. Just a little. Just enough. Down the hallway. I saw the faint outline of the back window. The blinds were raised halfway. Framed in the glass was a shape. It was tall. Too tall. Its head brushed the top of the window frame. Its body was stretched thin like old leather pulled over bones that weren't shaped right. Its face? No, it didn't have a face. It had several. They shifted like they were underwater. For a second, I saw my mother's eyes, then Ray's mouth, then Uncle Joe's jawline. Then my own face blinked back at me, wrong, the eyes too wide, the smile too sharp. My stomach lurched. The thing raised one long hand, pale and jointed in too many places, and waved slowly. It had my hand. Same small scars. Same crooked finger from when I'd broken it years ago. I don't remember moving. But suddenly, the bedroom door was slamming shut. Ray was shoving a chair under the handle, and we were both whispering, "No, no, 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 no," under our breath like a broken prayer. The scratching stopped. The house went silent. We stayed like that until dawn. Morning light made everything feel less real, like it had been a nightmare we'd shared by accident. But when we stepped into the hallway, my phone wasn't on the window anymore. It was sitting on the floor, screen facing up. The blinds hangs crooked, one plastic slat cracked clean in half. My hands were sweating as I picked up the phone. The recording app was still running. "Dude," Ray said, voice shaking. "Play it." I didn't want to, but I did. At first, the video showed nothing but the empty porch, washed in pale moonlight. We watched the timestamp crawl forward. 10 minutes, 20, 30. Then, out of the corner of the frame, something moved. It stepped into view like it had always been there, just waiting for the right moment. Tall. Thin. Wrong. On the screen, the thing's head turned toward the window. Toward us. I felt like vomiting. Ray swallowed hard. Pause it. I did. For one frozen frame, the thing on the screen had a face. A clear one. Mine. Pale. Stretched. Smiling too wide. Under my eyes, dark hollows crawled like bruises that were never going to heal. My skin looked empty. Like something had hollowed me out and was just wearing the shell. My mouth was open, teeth too sharp, like they'd been filed. Ray took a step back. "That's not funny," he whispered. I didn't feel like I had a body anymore. Just cold air and a pulse that was going too fast. Behind us, someone cleared their throat. We both jumped. Uncle Joe stood in the hallway, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched. He looked at the phone, then at the window. "I told you," he said softly, voice shaking with anger and something like fear. "You don't give it attention." He snatched the phone from my hand, closed the video, and deleted it without watching the rest. "Hey," Ray protested. "We needed—" "You needed what?" Uncle Joe snapped. "Proof? You think anyone out there's gonna believe this and magically fix it for you? You invited it closer. You gave it your face." His gaze landed on me, and for a second I thought he was going to say something else, something worse. Instead, he shook his head and walked away. "Pack your bags," he called over his shoulder. "You're going home tomorrow." That night, I didn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that frame from the video. My own face, wrong and hollow, staring back at me from something that wasn't human. I stared at the ceiling until the shadows blurred. Sometime around 3, I heard it again. Soft footsteps on the back porch. I squeezed my eyes shut. The boards creaked closer, a slow drag of fingers along the wall. Then, "Eli," it whispered. It wasn't flat this time. It wasn't wrong. It sounded exactly like me. "Eli," my own voice said from the hallway. "Open the door. It's locked." My skin broke out in goosebumps. "I'm already in here," I whispered, shaking. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. The handle turned once, twice, testing the chair braced under it. "Eli," my voice said again, the other side of the wood. "You're on the wrong side." Then, in the quiet, I heard something I will never forget. A quiet laugh. My laugh. It pulled away from the door. I heard it walk down the hall, slow and soft, like it had all the time in the world. It stopped outside Uncle Joe's room. His door opened. For a second, there was silence. Then I heard my uncle curse under his breath, followed by a sound like something heavy slamming into a wall. A deep, low growl filled the house. Not animal, not human. Something in between. The walls shook. I wanted to run. I wanted to help him. Instead, I stayed frozen in my bed, staring at the door, listening to every horrible noise tearing through the night. Then, all at once, it was over. The house went still. The clock ticked again, like nothing had happened. The next thing I remember is waking up to sunlight and the smell of coffee. Uncle Joe was at the table, arm in a sling, a dark bruise blossoming across his temple. His eyes were bloodshot, and his hand shook when he lifted his mug. "What happened?" I croaked. "Fell," he said flatly. "Got clumsy." Ray looked like he hadn't slept either. He stared at the bruise, then at me. "You heard it too, right?" he whispered when Uncle Joe stepped away to answer a call. Outside our door, Sounded like you. I nodded. Yeah, I said. I heard it. We never talked about what happened in Uncle Joe's room that night. Not then, not later. He put us on a bus the next morning, barely looking at us as we left. Remember what I said, he told me, squeezing my shoulder hard enough to hurt. If you ever hear yourself calling from outside, you stay inside. I tried to laugh. It came out sounding too much like the thing in the hallway. Years passed. I went back to the city, back to school, back to pretending the world was normal. Sometimes, late at night, I'd feel like someone was watching me from the dark corner of my room. I'd wake up sure that if I checked my phone camera, I'd see something tall standing behind me, smiling with my face. I never checked. I never went back to Uncle Joe's house. Then, last month, I got a call from my mom. "Eli," she said, voice tight, "your uncle passed away." My throat went dry. "How?" "They found him out near his truck," she said. "They think I don't know. They said the body looked strange. The coroner's confused." I didn't ask for details. I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed, shaking, listening to the silence press in around me. That night, the city felt too quiet. Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed where it lay on my nightstand. Unknown number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. I lifted the phone to my ear. "Hello?" For a moment, there was nothing. Just a faint, static hiss. Then I heard my own voice, clear and calm. "Eli," it said, "you left your window open." My heart stopped dead. I turned, slowly, toward the glass. The window was closed, but reflected faintly in the black surface. I saw something tall standing behind me, too close, its hand resting lightly on my shoulder. It was my hand. Same scars, same crooked finger. And its smile, copied perfectly from mine, was very, very wide. You can lock your doors, you can delete the recordings, you can run to the city and wrap yourself in neon and noise and pretend the desert is far away. But once something out there has worn your face, once it has practiced your voice, it doesn't forget. It just waits. Outside the glass. Outside the door. Patient. Listening. For the moment you're tired, or distracted, or just curious enough to answer yourself when you call.